The new season's promotional photo shoot ended in a heavier atmosphere than anyone could have imagined. Sam walked out of the studio with a cold expression, while Caitriona stood still in the makeup room, her hands gripping the script so tightly that her knuckles turned white. It all started with a difficult scene in the morning. Caitriona commented that Sam was acting too hard, not having the required emotional depth. Sam thought she was interfering too much and not giving her co-star the space to develop the scene on her own. After a few hurtful words, they lost control. In the makeup room, Sam's voice rang out loud enough for many people to hear. "You always think you are right. How can you have a long-term cooperation?" Caitriona replied without turning her head. "At least I don't use my pride to obscure my true feelings in front of the camera." No one said anything more. Sam pushed the door open and walked out, while Caitriona packed up her things in silence. The surrounding crew looked at each other, but no one dared to intervene. Sam took the car and drove around the studio area. He didn't turn on the music, didn't turn on his phone, just let the words from earlier ring over and over in his head. He knew he had said too much, but the emotions he had been suppressing for days made him unable to hold back. Caitriona sat in the dressing room, her eyes looking into the mirror. The reflection was not of a brave actress, but of a friend who was at risk of losing an important relationship. She clearly remembered the times they had overcome pressure together, faced rumors, shared their fatigue, and yet, in a moment of anger, they almost threw it all away. Around 9 o'clock in the evening, Sam returned to the studio. The hallway lights were almost off. He didn't think Caitriona was still there, but when he entered the resting corner next to the dressing room, he saw her sitting on the long chair by the glass door, holding a cup of cold tea. "You're not home yet?" he asked, his voice lower than usual. "I was thinking back, about this morning. And about me," she replied without looking at him. The air was silent for a few minutes. Sam sat down next to her, his eyes turned towards the glass door. "I'm sorry, I was too harsh. I shouldn't have hurt you like that." Caitriona closed her eyes and sighed. "I was wrong too. I shouldn't have forced your feelings my way. I'm sorry for pushing you to the limit." They still hadn't looked at each other, but the tension seemed to have left the space. Sam chuckled. "You two have put up with each other for 8 seasons, and in the end, you almost broke up because of one scene." Caitriona couldn't help but smile. "Luckily, we're still sane enough to not end up there." Sam stood up first, holding out his hand as an unspoken conciliation. "Let's reenact that scene tomorrow. No judgment, no pressure." Caitriona placed her hand in his, nodding slightly. "Just cooperation and understanding, like always." They left the hallway together, without another word, but their steps were already in sync as if nothing had ever broken between them. The next morning, the crew gathered earlier than usual because there was an important emotional scene that needed to be refilmed. No one knew how things had changed between Sam and Caitriona last night, only that the two of them appeared almost at the same time, not saying much, but their eyes were no longer cold and evasive like the day before. The director only glanced at both of them and then silently continued to assign tasks, as if he knew they would find their rhythm again. During the makeup process, a young staff member timidly approached Caitriona. "Sister, were you okay yesterday? I saw everyone was a bit worried." Caitriona put her hand on her shoulder, gently. "It's okay. Sometimes people have to say the most unpleasant things to see themselves most clearly." In the opposite corner, Sam was adjusting his collar when he met Caitriona's eyes reflected in the mirror. She didn't smile, but her gaze was more peaceful than any greeting. He nodded slightly, instead of starting over. The moment they entered the set, no one asked them to talk privately, but it was Sam who stepped forward. "If there is anything you don't feel is right for me, just say it. But I also have to let you try it your way first." Caitriona replied without hesitation. "I know. This time I will listen before commenting." The words were not loud, but enough for the assistants nearby to look at each other and breathe a sigh of relief. The entire crew understood that there were relationships that were not easy to replace, and if these two people really broke up, the whole crew would feel a part was missing. The scene began. The atmosphere suddenly became strangely silent, not because of tension but because of absolute concentration. Sam looked straight into Caitriona's eyes. This time her gaze did not carry any resistance or pressure, but strangely understanding. She also no longer tried to adjust his every breath like before. Instead there was a feeling of understanding that had existed for many years, only temporarily obscured by a layer of pride. When the director shouted, "Cut," he said nothing, just looked at them for a few seconds and nodded in satisfaction. One of the lighting crew muttered, "Only they can act like that with each other." No one responded, but everyone understood. During the lunch break, the two of them accidentally, or intentionally, sat at the same table in a private area. No one started with an apology anymore, because everything was behind them. Instead, there were seemingly small stories, but they were the way for both of them to rekindle their trust. "Do you remember the first time we argued in season 2? Sam leaned his arms on the table, his eyes on the coffee cup. "How could I forget? You were so angry that you left the set for an hour just to sit in the parking lot." Caitriona replied, laughing naturally for the first time in many days. "But you came back just because I texted you 3 words. Stop being a kid," she continued, tilting her head to look at him. "Yeah, I was so angry and amused that I didn't know which emotion to choose first." The silence that followed wasn't awkward, but warm. There were relationships that didn't need too many apologies, just two people who tacitly understood the reason why they couldn't turn their backs forever. Late in the afternoon, before leaving the set, Sam suddenly stood blocking Caitriona's car door. "I think we owe each other one more time, not an apology, but a promise." Caitriona opened the car window, her eyes softening but not leaving him. "Promise what?" "Next time something happens, I won't turn it into a battle line." "Me too. We're teammates, not opponents." She was silent for a few beats and then nodded slightly. "But if you say something hurtful like yesterday again, then I have the right to throw the script straight at you." Sam interrupted, making both of them laugh out loud. Before the car rolled away, Caitriona reached out to the door frame and whispered loud enough for him to hear. "Don't let your ego be the reason for losing the most precious thing between us." Sam didn't reply, but her smile was deeper than any promise. When she left, he stood there for a long time, as if wanting to engrave that moment into his memory. That night, he received a brief text message. "This morning's scene, thanks for acting with me, not against me." Sam replied with just 2 words. "Same as before." But he didn't put the phone down right away. A moment later, he added, "If you're free tomorrow, let's reread the exterior scene at the harbor before the actual shooting. I want to try something new, but this time, no pressure." Caitriona read the message as soon as she entered the house. She stood in front of the mirror, dropped her coat on the chair, her eyes still on that brief line. A strange sense of relief crept into her, not because of the job offer, but because of the way Sam said it, without defense, without resentment. She typed slowly. "I'll be there early in the morning. But don't be late and blame it on traffic." Sam responded immediately, as if he'd been waiting. "If you come after me, I'll buy breakfast for the whole week." She sent only one emoji, a defiant frown. In the quiet apartment, Caitriona placed her phone on the table and turned on the soft yellow light. Instead of the usual tiredness after a stressful day, she felt her mind calmer. The angry moment from the day before seemed to fade away quickly, not because it had never been heavy, but because they had both chosen not to hold on to it. And Sam, before turning off the nightlight, played the dialogue for tomorrow's scene again. He wasn't watching it to memorize it, but to make sure that when he was in the same frame with her, he wouldn't carry any distance with him. The phone lit up one last time before he placed it on the nightstand. Same as before, but not like yesterday. The message was from Caitriona. Sam chuckled, then typed back. See you tomorrow morning. No fronts, no egos. And without saying it, both of them knew. This reconciliation not only ended an argument, but also removed something invisible that had been oppressing them for so long.